Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to give you guys a quick look at Sony's latest addition to the E-mount lineup of glass designed for your NEX camera of choice. This is the SELP-18200mm lens. Now the P in that model name does reference the fact that it is a power zoom lens, a concept originally launched with the NEX6. The 16 to 50 millimeter zoom lens that you're looking at here is also now paired with the NEX3N and priced at $350 retail on its own. And the power trend, at least the power zoom trend, has made its way to the 18 to 200 millimeter zoom. And I know a lot of you out there would have preferred to have another prime lens. The 20 millimeter Pancake was also announced, but don't worry, there are more primes on the way from Zeiss. So good glass is in our future if you are an NEX owner. This lens that we're looking at today is paired in a kit form with the VG30, so that pretty much makes it clear that this is the direct replacement for the older 18 to 200 millimeter lens, which, if you've watched any of my reviews, this $900 piece of glass is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best purchases you can make for an NEX camera, if this is what you need in terms of focal range. Granted, it's large, it's heavy. The LE version is smaller and also black, depending on which color scheme you are trying to match, and if you even care about that. When it comes to price point, the LE is less expensive, but this does offer better performance. It has active steady shot for image stabilization, going a step further than the traditional optical steady shot that's incorporated into all of, I shouldn't say all of, but many of Sony's native E-mount lenses. So this brand new power zoom, certainly more expensive, $1,200 retail, and it is bigger and heavier. It does give you the benefit of a black scheme, which I think for the professionals that are picking it up, that's definitely going to be the preferred color over the silver. And that's part of the reason that it is paired with the VG30. It's also because, after all, this lens, its lineage is dictated by the fact that it has to be flexible for both video and still. And one of the largest criticisms of the original 18 to 200 was that it lacked a power zoom. So now we've got that. You also have the ability to switch the power zoom between 3 different modes, high, medium, and low, in terms of its speed. And that really will allow you to try to avoid some of the recording, onboard recording, especially when paired with a camera like the 5R, 7 or 6. Granted, the 7 does have microphone input. The 6, this camera, as well as the 5N, 3N, go down the road of whichever camera, at least NEX body, that you'd want to use rather than a VG, where you can't get any other audio source. You will end up recording a power zoom, like on the 1650, but this one is definitely geared more towards a videographer. That's why you've got this level of control. The other benefit, which really is what makes this lens very interesting to me, because it's sort of really accommodating, almost giving you 2 lenses in one, is that you can switch between the power zoom and manual control. So you still have the ability, just like you did with the older 18 to 200, to just manually zoom. So you don't give up the fact or the feeling that you're still using a still imaging device here because you've taken on the extra weight and bulk of a power zoom. Traditionally, many power zooms, much like the far less expensive 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens, when you go to use that manual zoom, it's still going to be the power zoom, of course. So here you are getting the benefit of having the best of both worlds. That's why this is really, in my opinion, the ideal lens for a videographer or just someone looking to get everything in one package. Because when you pair this with something like the 5R or any other NEX body, meaning not going with a VG, a true camcorder that works off an APS-C sensor, much like, if not identical to the one found here in the 5R, then you are, trying to get the smallest package with the best performance. And this certainly is going to be smaller than anything else out there that I would compare it to in a traditional digital SLR standard. So really like the promise that this holds. Certainly from a handling perspective, the older 18 to 200, I think, is a little bit more accommodating to traditional use, but I haven't really put this through the paces yet to tell you guys that it's not livable or it's uncomfortable. Clearly you can see both look a little bit silly on the NEX bodies, but that's just because of the actual size. But there's no question this lens is a little bit more compact, a little bit more solid And both lenses are built really, really well. I shouldn't say solid, but it's heavier, and that's because it does have that power zoom built in. There's a motor there that just isn't on this lens. Also, in terms of actual elements, I believe 15 here as opposed to, I believe, 13 in the older original 18-200. Correct me if I'm wrong, I might be off by an element. The point is they aren't actually identical. Whether or not that has to do with the fact that they had to accommodate the power zoom, I'm not really sure. But the point is they aren't exactly the same. So even though this is the third 18-200 millimeter lens to hit the NEX family natively from Sony, keep in mind it really does represent a completely different lens. If anything, I would argue I would have rather seen this lens than the LE, because the LE really was redundant, and since it doesn't perform as well as the original, I'd always rather have a little bit extra weight and have better performance than sacrifice performance on any camera where the body is going to be $500 and up. It just is counterintuitive to what you're trying to achieve. So yes, you can already see this tilts over, it can't even sit up straight, but keep in mind, it was the kit lens for the VG30, as I mentioned earlier in this video. So really, if you're looking for a no compromise zoom lens right now on the NEX, there's a reason this is the most expensive one out there. I expect it to perform as well, if not better, than the original 18-200 since it is its replacement. So good things in store, I hope. There's no question that, you know, the way it's performed with the VG30, it's been a pairing that certainly was made for one another. And the VG30 breaks basically every rule. But whether or not this lens will be a match made in heaven for traditional NEX bodies like the 5N and R you're looking at here, and hopefully the 7N down the road, if it is going to be hitting us within the next month, is another question altogether. I can tell you guys another thing, which is that the newer models like the 3N here, and I imagine the 7N, do have the zoom control built in like a traditional point and shoot. I'm not sure that's going to carry over to the 7N, because I know that as much as Sony seems to be leaning towards more commercial features like a touchscreen in the 7N as opposed to the 7, where they did not. They omitted the touchscreen experience because they felt it would lend itself to more of a gimmicky consumer feel rather than a professional feel, which I understood, even though I didn't necessarily agree. And now they've made that change. I don't know if they'll go as far as incorporating a power zoom on body, because there's no question that really does make a camera feel and operate like a point and shoot, even though I do like the versatility. So I'm not opposed to it, but Sony may not do it. We just don't know yet. I wouldn't be shocked though if they did, because there are a lot of you out there that are going to want to use this lens as opposed to something like this or the LE with these newer offerings, even the full frame NEX that we will all eventually at some point get to see. But look forward to giving you guys further impressions of this lens and its performance and whether or not it's really worth the gap. But again, keep in mind, it's like getting a 2-for-1 here in terms of capabilities when it comes to having power and manual. It really is a whole nother level than what the older original 18-200 offered. That is, again, with the premise that this is going to best it, or at least meet it in terms of still and video performance. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.